Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Welcome to Masters of Business. Yes, your employees do matter. They matter to you, they matter to your business, and ultimately they matter to your business success. My name's Natasha Hawker from Employee Matters, and I'm an employee expert. I help small business with hire to fire and everything in between. Think employment contracts, policies, recruitment, and terminations. In today's show, we're going to talk to you about how you can halve the costs of hiring your employees. Now, who wouldn't want to know a little bit more about that? What we're going to do is let you in on a corporate secret. And it's a way you can help your business save thousands of dollars, save you time, and also lift the capability of your employee workforce. Recruitment is an area of enormous frustration for most small business owners. And in this session, you're going to learn about how you can get more for your money. Doing business in Australia is really hard. Doing business anywhere in the world is hard. It's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do. In Australia, 97% of businesses are actually small business. And I want to help small business owners lose their employee headaches that keep them awake at night and help them grow their businesses faster than ever before through their employees. And the way that I do that is through a corporate best practice, and it's a secret. And it's using corporate best practice and applying it in a way that makes commercial sense to small business. Let's face it, these guys have spent millions and millions of dollars on this to get it right. So let's take what they do and leverage it and make sure that we can apply it in a way that makes sense to our business. So what are you going to learn in today's session? We're going to teach you about corporate best practice recruitment style. What are the things you need to be doing in your recruitment process that are going to mean that you attract the best candidates and that you have a better performing candidate, a better performing workforce? Then I'm going to let you in on the secret. The secret is talent pools, and no small businesses in Australia are doing this as yet. So if you are going to spend 45 minutes with me, at the end of that, you are going to have all the tools, the methodology, and the way forward for how you can apply talent pools in your business. So let's start with some of the basics first. I want to talk you through an employee life cycle. Now, I built this methodology to help small businesses understand everything in the employee life cycle, from hire to fire and everything in between. Let's run through this. Step one in the methodology is around assess. Assess is a diagnostic piece. This is the piece that helps you understand what are the legislation requirements that are governing your business. They will help you to understand whether you're compliant or whether you're at risk of breach. Now, obviously, they vary country to country, so you need to keep abreast of what's happening in your particular country-specific segment. Number two is around hire. How do you hire the best employees? How do you attract the best employees? And what type of employee do you need? Step three is around manage. Once you have these employees on board, how do you actually motivate them? How do you reward them? How do you incentivize them to do more for you, to increase your productivity level? And just as importantly, if they're not working out, how do you manage a non-performer? Step four is around policy. These are the personnel policies that you need in order to be compliant with some of your legislation. So policies could be things such as EEO, equal employment opportunity, or sexual harassment, or drugs and alcohol in the workplace and how to manage that. Step five is around well-being. This is the workplace health and safety piece. This talks about what is your obligations under workplace health and safety laws. What do you need to do to provide the duty of care for your employees? Again, these would vary. They would be country specific. Step six is around training. So if you bring these fabulous candidates on board, how can you make sure they are trained up and that they can perform at their optimum level? You can also teach in this section what's appropriate workplace behaviour so that people behave as they should at work. Step 7 is around engagement. This is one of my favourite steps in the employee life cycle because this is where you can absolutely get more for your money. Step 7 talks about engagement. which is actually a measure of discretionary effort. So if you can measure what the engagement levels are in your workforce, you can increase those. So employers that have 75% engagement levels and above get 21% more profitability and 22% more productivity. Now, who wouldn't want some more of that? Step 8 is around measure. This is about the hard numbers of HR, the hard numbers of employees. What are employees costing you? And more importantly, and we're going to go through this today, what's it costing you not to have employees in your workplace? Step 9 is around exit. This is around how do you exit employees, both those performing employees that you might want to get back, you might want to start an alumni program, and also when it hasn't worked out, how do you exit employees from your organisation in a way that's legal, safe and fair? So that's our employee 9-step employee life cycle. We're going to focus most on hire today. One of the challenges around hiring in the small business segment is that most small businesses don't know how to write great ads. They don't know how to attract the best candidates. They don't know where all their candidates are hiring, and they don't know how to get that candidate to take their job offer over their competition. So we're going to focus on how can you make sure that you get the best possible candidates in your pipeline and that you have a choice and that you can lift your employee capability across the business over time. I always say that your employees are both your greatest asset and potentially your greatest liability. So let's hire the best employees we can. Now, what often happens when people go to hire, they don't know when is the right time to hire. Do I need to? Can I afford to? There are generally 2 tips that happen for small business owners. First of all, it's the gut. The gut tells them, I think it's time to hire. I really do think it's time to hire. The second way they'll typically know that it's time to hire is that the mistakes start to increase because resources are getting stretched further and stretched further and stretched further. One of the challenges is that many small business owners often deliberate so long about whether now's the right time to hire or not that they actually leave it too late, and that can have a detrimental impact to their business as well. So what I wanted to talk to you about here is a little technique to work out, can I afford to have a new employee? And if I can afford it, what am I going to get them to do? So I'd like you to do a little exercise with me. I'd like you to grab a piece of paper. On the front of the piece of paper, I'd like you to write down all your revenue targets for the next 12 months. What you think you're going to bill over the next 12 months from whatever month we're in now, right through for the 12-month period. Then I'd like you to sit down and work out what you pay yourself. Now, let's face it, some of us as small business owners don't pay ourselves what we should, but what you are paying yourself in the business. Then I want you to flip that piece of paper over. On this side, I want you to write down every single thing you do on a daily basis. Now, what I would say is that this is a really good exercise for those solo business owners where they haven't got any employees yet, but also it could be used where you've got 3 or 4 or 5 and you just want to go through this exercise to work out whether they're doing what they should be doing. So back to the exercise. What I'd like you to do is to write down every single thing that you do. And then I'd like you to group these in areas that are similar. So you might focus on things like what is social media and sales might be grouped together. And I also want you to put a time to it. I want you to work out what the timing is around that particular activity. Put it away for 24 hours and come back. You're going to think about more things. Now it's going to get really hard. I'd actually like you to work out what you're good at. What are you famous for? I think as small business owners, what we typically do is we can turn our hands to most things, and we will try most things, but that's not necessarily the most effective use of our time. So work out what you're particularly good at. That should leave a list of what you should outsource or potentially get someone else to do it. Now work out what it's going to cost you to outsource or get somebody else to do that role, and then work out what your hourly rate is. And if you could repoint that time to focus on growing the business, would that make more sense? And I think in many cases, it probably does. The next thing you need to think about is, all right, I know what I need them to do. What type of employee do I need? So there are a number of different employees. You could have a permanent employee. You could have a permanent part-time employee. You could have an independent contractor, a casual, or a temp. All of those have different legal requirements, again, depending on what country you live in. So you will need to work out what best fits your needs. I would encourage you not just to think about permanent employees in every case. There are many other opportunities, and use those instruments of hiring different employees to your advantage. Now, I'm going to share a story with you. I actually like to iron. Well, actually, I don't actually like ironing. I like the outcome of the task. I like my kids to be in iron clothes, and I like them, and even my husband, although he's not that fussed on it. Now, the issue is that ironing is a very time-consuming task, and I need to work out whether I'm best suited to actually spend my time ironing, which I could probably outsource for a much lesser cost than what I pay myself, or do I outsource that and actually spend my time working on a $6,000 to $10,000 deal for the business? Now, I know what I think I need to do. What do you think I need to do? Recruitment is actually quite simple when you're good at it. It's right person, right place, right time. That's what you need to think about when it comes to recruiting. So let's explore what's happened traditionally in recruitment methods. Traditionally, most people have always advertised. Originally, it was through the newspaper, and then we had job sites come on board. What happens there is most cases you pay a set fee, your ad runs for a certain amount of time, and it points the candidates through to you. You pay a fixed price for that time, and then hopefully you manage to net your ideal candidate. The second way is through the use of recruitment agencies. Now, recruitment agencies typically charge you between 10 and 35% of the total compensation. So that's how agencies have typically recruited over time, and that's the cost base. But recruitment is a really consuming activity. It takes a lot of time, especially if you're going to do it properly. So it's a very time-consuming activity, and most small business owners actually don't feel like they get the return on investment. They feel like the yield is very low for what they're getting, and the candidates are a bit ho-hum and they haven't really nailed it. The other thing there with that time investment is that there's a cost to that. So it's an expensive process, especially if you do use an agency. I think what's been interesting is there's been a massive change in how we recruit. And typically the ways we used to recruit with technology have got much more effective. There's way more ways to recruit than what there were in the past. But interestingly, what we haven't got better at is when we have a candidate, how we manage them through our recruitment process. We still have a lot to learn. I think there's an enormous opportunity. If you can do this better than your competitors, you're more likely to hire better employees. So what does it actually cost you to recruit? Well,
to continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.